Hello, 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 everyone. Hope everyone's having a great weekend. Hope everyone, um, hope you're not looking forward to Monday. But yeah, no matter what you do, it'll show up and you'll all have to go to work again. And if you're in North America, you'll have to go into the office. Most tech companies now require you to go to the office 3 days, 4 days, and then there are other companies, they are trying to, pussyfoot around the whole thing. They'll try to encourage you to come in 3 days, then they'll try to encourage you to come 4 days, increase your visibility and all the nonsense. Because when it comes to promotions, all that happens is, okay, what's the quality of the work you've done? And then it gets decided who moves up the ladder. So, anyway, guys, I don't want to distract everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of Wasted Wanderers. Let us know what you think of our intro video. We are trying to get this to a more professional space. And as you can see, no more on the trial version of the software anymore. Fully committed, fully ready to dive in every week, again and again, in front of you guys, putting our opinions, putting our analysis, and hopefully keeping it fun. JD, go for it.
Yeah, I love the new intro, and I love that we're not on a trial basis anymore. So thank you so much for taking care of that, Abhi. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of our podcast. It's been a week. A lot has happened in the week. It's never a dull moment. Something or the other craziness is always happening. And as always, we don't take much time to pull up the crazy news because there's a lot of it. So can't wait to go deep in it. Um, let's start. So what's our first story, Abhijit?
Let me pull that up. I mean, I don't know if this is like an old story resurfaced. Now, again, there is some news that okay, there'll be a U.S. government shutdown. JD, give us an intro on this one because I actually didn't know till you mentioned it.
Yeah, even this caught me off guard also. I was like, didn't we didn't we just have this a month ago? Like I thought that was resolved, so why is this happening again? Well, turns out it was not resolved. It was just kicked down the road, which and that road ended yesterday. So basically what this article talks about is the US Senate and Congress both need to sign bill that can lift the debt ceiling, and so the government can work more. But there's a small fight between Democrats and Republicans, as always. But specifically, uh, what this is about, you can see here it says like the US President Donald Trump struck a deal with Democrats after they refused to give more funding for immigration enforcement. So, if you guys are aware, there's a lot of anti immigration stuff happening in the US, specifically in Minnesota. And, like, yeah, it's not very popular over there because Minnesota is still a blue state. And yeah, like following the fatal shooting of two US citizens in Minneapolis by federal agents, that caused a lot of storms. So I guess before that thing happened, I guess Republicans were pretty confident. They were like, yeah, this is going to pass, no worries. But Democrats have like claim now, they say like, okay, we don't want to fund the DHS, which is the organization that ICE comes under, which is creating all this havoc. So they want to defund ICE, and this is their chance basically. So that's what they say here: we need to rein in ICE and end the violence. Chuck Schumer, who's the current head of Democrats, and he says like this means ending petrol. This requires rules, oversight, and judicial warrants. Mask need to come off, camera needs to stay on, officers needs visible identification, no secret police. So he's basically pissed off about all this, and this is the chance. So I feel that's why this article is kind of true. Like the US partial shutdown might be coming in. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Any thoughts, Abhijit?
Yeah, this type of US news is just becoming redundant. And it's like there is nothing more to report on in the US. Okay, let's think about having, maybe there'll be another shutdown, right? Like, ICE may or may not have overreached whatever they did in Minnesota. I'm not, again, when you see we only always see one side of the story, that two shootings happened and ICE was involved. I'm not supporting or not supporting ICE. I'm just saying, do we know what the history of the said people were? Now, it looks like at least one of those cases was outright uh, questionable, because I think it was a mother, or maybe a child, if I remember correctly. I think one of the cases was a mother of a small child, and she was shot. I don't know about the second one. I honestly have not followed the whole Minnesota story much. The reason I find this very problematic at a systemic level. There needs to be something much. The root cause is, I think, of all these shutdowns that keep happening, and we are seeing that the frequency of these shutdowns is going up. There was one major shutdown during Trump 1.0, then there was another major shutdown during Biden. Now there was the longest ever government shutdown under Trump 2.0. Now there might be another one, and god knows how many more are going to come with future presidents. I think, other than the fact that you need to come to a resolution so that the government can start functioning, there needs to be an overhaul in procedures that are in place to ensure that one shutdown doesn't hold up the whole government, right? Actually, Thailand is a good example of this. Every year, like coups happen in Thailand very often, and suddenly the royalty wants to take control of the whole government, right? And even though all these leadership changes keep happening, the basic government functionality is always in place. People are still going to Thailand, they're landing in Bangkok, they're going through customs, they're visiting, they're doing whatever they need to, they come out. The Thai people have nothing, nothing pauses their lives to an extent that, okay, now suddenly workers are not getting paid, or military personnel are not getting paid, whatever, all these departments that come under the federal government, right? They're saying that the Democrats want to stop the funding for DHS because ICE comes under DHS. If you have a problem with ICE, why don't you just stop the funding for ICE? I don't even know if there is a mechanism to be able to do that, right? The shutdown, I think, maybe there's an issue in what you can quote unquote shut down or not. Maybe you can't directly shut down ICE, so that's why you want to shut down all of DHS. Think about all the other people who need the DHS services on so many other legal immigrant statuses. Even people within the US may need services of the DHS. To my understanding, DHS is also responsible for Social Security cards and all these other good things. I remember when I had my when I got my like that temporary type of Social Security number, it said DHS on top of it. So, Department of Homeland Security. So all I'm saying is, okay, there is some sort of a stalemate when it comes to the way ICE is behaving. It should just affect ICE. It shouldn't be a government wide shutdown that, okay, we can't fund it, okay, everyone, nothing will happen. Right? These need to just get more targeted so that at least the rest of the government can function. I think in the last shutdown, air traffic controllers uh, were facing the brunt of this, right? Like so many U.S. flights are just getting cancelled because air traffic controllers are not getting paid, or they have to operate at reduced staff just because that department is not getting funded. Food stamps or whatever that program is not getting funded, so whoever actually needs food stamps is not getting them. Again, I'm largely not in the favor of any type of you know spoon feeding like food stamps, etc., but there is a small section of society that genuinely needs assistance to stand back up on their feet. And just because I don't know how many Congress people are there in the states, like what's the size of the Congress? I'm curious. uh,
Yeah,
Let
I don't
me
know.
just, how many people in the US Congress? So we currently have 535 members of Congress, and then out of which 100 serve in the Senate and 435 serve in the House of Reps, right? So based on 535 people not being able to come to an agreement, why should a country of 34 odd, 38 million odd, not 38 million, 338 million just be stood up, right? I think whether this partial shutdown happens or not, the US system in general just needs to take a deeper look at how these sort of shutdowns can be more localized. If there is a I don't think that Democrats and Republicans are completely in disagreement with everything under the sun. There are some things where they can't agree on. Maybe you can pause those while you reach an agreement, but let everything else function normally so that the impact on the populace and everyone who's on US soil, the impact can just be minimized. I mean, that's my take on this. I don't know how that'll happen. I'm not an expert in US law by any means. I'm not an expert in the US Constitution. I just don't think that ending up in a shutdown once every presidency is setting good precedent for other democracies across the world. That's my take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. Like, why does US is the major democracy that ends up in shutdown? Like, there's so many other democracies. There's so many other types of political system. There's just something. There's something like all or nothing about US democracy. Like, either you can get everything or nothing. I don't know if that's US culture or what is it, but yeah, this is not healthy. If the Democrats wants to just deal with ICE, they should not be, you know, keeping hostage the whole US government. um, I guess I understand like why Democrats are pissed. There was like some male nurse who was shot, and it didn't go so down well in Minnesota. Um, and I feel it's partially also kind of a Republican uh, fault also, because traditionally Republicans think like, okay, there are two kinds of states, right? Like there's the red leaning, gun friendly red states, and then they're left leaning, sissy, culture, fancy ass blue states. But they forget that states like Minnesota, who are blue, but they are very gun friendly. So I had actually had a roommate in Chicago who was from Minnesota, and he was a Democrat, but he carried a gun with him. So there are states like this, and people should be careful to, just put people in the buckets. Um, and another interesting thing, I was just looking up, like, okay, what else comes under DHS, right? So there's quite a lot of stuff. So you guys have heard of TSA, so security at the airports. That comes under DHSA. Obviously, the ICE comes under it. US Secret Service, I was surprised, that comes under DHS. FEMA, which is, all these uh, uh, disaster recovery organization that helps when there are floods, that comes under their. US Coast Guard, USCIS. This is something uh, Abhi and me are very intimately familiar with. So this is the agency that issues visas like H-1B, things like that. Yeah, so there's just more than just ice there. So I don't know what will be the result, but i hope I hope this gets resolved.
Yeah, I can only, I mean, since you mentioned USCIS, like Indian H1B interviews or H1B interviews in general are being continually pushed back. If a partial shutdown or anything of that sort happens, it will just exacerbate that situation as well. It'll just add more sort of, yeah, it'll just make the uncertainty all the more excruciating. And then sometimes I feel okay, at someone's gonna have to step up and say like we have to take ownership of this process. I think I think there should be something after this issue gets resolved. There should be something introduced in the US Congress which says that there will be, and maybe this is, thinking out of the box, but maybe there should be something that comes in and says, okay, no more government shutdowns allowed till such time that there can be a more refined mechanism to actually localize the part that is shut down within the government, right? It can't just be the whole Department of Homeland Security gets no funding just because there is one section, one sub organization, or like I guess one arm of this whole department on whose actions there is some sort of a disagreement, right? That's my limited take. I mean, it doesn't affect me in any way. Um, my biggest travel case to the US will be as a visitor, so I'll just show up at the border, show my passport, and then you know go on, meet my friends, and come back. But yeah, this is, and frankly, like also from a news perspective, it just loses its newsability in that sense, right? Like, okay, yeah, U.S. government another shutdown, biggie, move on, you know. Um, okay, let's move to the next one, guys. We can track this. Obviously, if it does go into some sort of a shutdown or like this turns into reality in any form, then you'll find both of us talking about it. But yeah, till then, let's get to the next one, and let me pull that up. Okay, yeah, there we go. So this week, we also decided to look at other types of news sources. So like we said, okay, let's look at TechCrunch and what's happening because they have their own section on sort of news and politics. So this is what showed up. So a couple of weeks back, I maybe even a month or so back, on my on the Narad news channel, I did a whole live in which we got. I don't know if it was this podcast or maybe just the one that I do on my own, but I covered the whole topic on Australia banning social media apps, or at least some social media apps for children under 16. And it looks like there are some states in India that are considering this, right? Australia has brought in a law ensuring a ban on social media for children below the age of 16. Goa is one of the states in India for our non-Indian audience. Andhra Pradesh, another state within India. I believe we need to create a strong legal enactment, he said on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum. Oh God, that was another roller coaster ride. Anyway, World Economic Forum. I've never seen so many spotlights on the WEF as I saw this time. But anyway, we can talk about that later. Any move to restrict children's access to social media in India would carry significant implications for global tech companies, for which the South Asian nation is a critical growth market. Government estimates put India's internet user base more than 1 billion, with a large share of those users coming online at young age, making the country central to the user and advertising strategies of platforms such as Meta, Google, and X. I'm very clear on this. Do it. Like, I want not just Andhra Pradesh and Goa or just the other 27 odd Indian states. I want all the Canadian provinces. I want the bottom 48 or all the 50 of the US, or 51, 52, as many as whatever might be the new buzzword. But I literally wouldn't, I would hands down support such an initiative anywhere in the world. I have nothing against social media. I am doing this podcast. This episode is airing on YouTube. So I'm far from being against social media. But I also know that the audience needs to just be more sort of aware of the difference between opinion, analysis, fiction, non-fiction when accessing such content. My firmest of beliefs is, okay, you be an adult and then you do whatever you want on social media. The day you get into college, you can make social media your career, all for it. You think you can manage a social media presence along with your studies in college, go for it. You don't want to go to college, I'm still okay with that. But till the age you're 18, focus on getting the basics of education in, so that you develop a holistic way to think about the content you consume, either through short form, long form, fiction, non-fiction, live, edited, doesn't matter, right? I I would love to see this happening all over the world. Since, especially since the, I would I would I would peg maybe the George Floyd incident as a starting point of all the, you know, all the extremities everyone ends up in for every little issue that happens in the world. George Floyd was the starting point, then came the pandemic. I think what George Floyd happened during the pandemic. So, you know, there is just such a wide gap between the so-called right and the left that it's bizarre. It's very, frankly, it's very stupid, right? How many times, I'll go on a tangent topic, but how many times have we heard that corporate work culture has too much politics? No, it does not have any politics. The only thing it has is a professionalized version of Jersey Shore, or for Indian people, professionalized version of Big Boss. Real politics, real sincere politicians, it doesn't matter which side of the fence they stand on. They do a lot of research, be it the conservatives in Canada, liberals in Canada, BJP in India, Congress in India, or Democrats in the US, or other Republicans in the US. They do a lot of research before they put forth a bill, before they have a debate on it. Even the debaters do a lot of counter research. It's not a joke. Politics is not a joke. Unfortunately, social media has accentuated this belief that politics is one, bullshit, two, does not affect our lives. The truth is far from both of those points. It's very serious business. It's very well thought. It's very well researched. We may not agree or disagree. We may not agree with what comes out at the end of a debate. Maybe we don't agree with the latest law. It doesn't matter. The fact is, a lot of detailed discussion and thought goes into the 60-second reel that everyone wants to like of their favorite politician, sort of quote unquote taking down another one. They're not out there to take down each other. Yes, they give statements in the media, at which point, okay, they have to, season it. But again, this whole concept of arriving at your truth in 141 or what 2 minutes of a discussion on a topic, or I think 150, 180 characters, whatever the limit is on X, it's ridiculous. And I think when you turn 18, when you become an official adult, or you start off as a young adult, at that point you gain a decent enough understanding that what I'm seeing in short form, what I'm just seeing in my doom scrolls, is very, very far from the reality. So, yeah, hands down, I'm happy. Yeah, go for it, JD.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I wanted to give like a background of like what exactly this is, right? Like, I guess Australia started with this. They banned uh, social media for anybody under 16, and I think because of that, a lot of other company countries have gained confidence. Um, you know, because yeah, some people have said like social media can be as addictive as cigarettes or alcohol, like mentally. So should they be also governed like that? Like, should there be warning labels? Should there be, like ID check and things like that? um yeah, those are like interesting questions, but I feel like this ban, yeah, it could happen in India. Like, India banned like those Chinese apps, right? So it's totally possible. I don't think it's going to happen in the US. uh, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But first, I also want to talk about the social media of today is not what the social media was when you and me, Abhijit, when we were young, right? um, that was, I would say, like a how it started was actually connecting with friends and doing stupid stuff. These days it's like it's full of like rage bait, extreme views, those kind of content, like anything that gets a reaction out of you. So I wouldn't even call it social media anymore. And it is true, like, because a lot of people, they stay on these apps and these apps are very addictive. This literally, I believe, can bring the productivity of a whole country down, just because people are wasting constant hours on these platforms, right? Both the creators and the viewers. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's still a long tail of content that's actually good, but it's like that the first, like, I would say 10% is like full of trash. And coming back to like my views personally, I'm very torn on this subject because morally, obviously, this is wrong. Like our kids are being filled with trash in their brain all day. But then I also share a lot of views with libertarians, which is like a government should not get into the business of uh, of
Business
uh,
of doing business.
business or doing business or controlling what I see, hear, or talk about, right? Like, I want like to live in a society where I am free to speak how I want. So I mean, so that's where I'm a little conflicted. Um, and I would say I and many other people in America would not let this happen in the US, because it's like, okay, you can ban for 16-year-olds. What's to stop banning 18 or 20 or 25? Like, where does it end?
Where does
And
it end? Yeah.
secondly, how are you going to check if it's if somebody is lower than 16 or not? Are you going to check those IDs? Oh, okay, so now you're
Just
storing
like porn
IDs.
websites, this is only for 18 and above. Please click your button before you can see.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. and
Fair
and the
point.
third point is, so Meta also mentioned in this news, is like, they said like, okay, if you can ban it, kids will find a way to go to other places and still do all the shit they do. So at least if they're on our platform, we can track what they're doing, kind of. I mean, I don't know if that's a strong argument, but I somewhat kind of agree. Like, kids are super smart. They are going to find ways around bans and things like that. So it's not right, like, okay, now we're going to have a government body on top that is going to dictate, like, okay, who gets access and whatnot. That is the part I feel really hesitant with. Yeah.
Yeah, more often than not, I'm also always on the side of lesser government and more governance. I think the reason I'm willing to support this is that I, yeah, it, to your point also, JD, that this literally brings down productivity. Like at a very young age, kids are losing the habit to read. I think, though, partially it's being offset by their willingness to listen to long form podcasts. That's why that's why people like Joe Rogan or Lex Friedman, they can exist, because there is an audience that is listening to 3 hour interviews. I just don't know if it's 16-year-olds. Um, I think on the I think on social media there is a lot of millennials, Gen Xers, etc., who are maybe consuming this content more than teenagers. I think,
Hmm.
and as today's teenagers or as today's adolescents, they get into the higher age brackets, and they are coming from a space where their attention span is 90 seconds, 180 seconds. They're used to doom scrolling. We will probably see a trend moving towards, you know, lower attention spans. Long form content may just by by rules of demand and supply, we may see a decrease in long form content. I don't want to see that happen, because personally I do enjoy a lot of long form content myself, and also um, I'm in I'm also on YouTube doing long form content here with JD and on my own channel. So I of course want to ensure that there is always an audience who is willing to listen and unpack a topic. It need not be the most glamorous topic in the world, but it is something that affects people's lives daily. And then, you know, there can be some sort of an intellectually driven discussion based on depth rather than, you know, clickbaitiness, essentially. I don't, yeah, personally, if we were in a space where, okay, there was already a reasonable framework where parents could decide for their kids that, okay, till the age of 18, reasonably speaking, they won't be accessing too much social media, then I would have said, okay, let the parents handle their kids and we don't need government stepping in. But again, kids always find a way to go around. So maybe government intervention is necessary, but then again, how is government intervention going to be complete? There will be leakages. Uh, I like the idea in principle. I know that there can be misuse, um, but yeah, I personally feel that okay, having limited exposure to social media only to just communicate with others over messages or just video calls, that should be enough. We shouldn't be having too much social media exposure uh, till you're 16 or 18 or whatever. So yeah, that's my take on this. Let's see where the story goes. Let's see if the Indian states do decide to actually try something like that, and then we'll try to get some data on if social media access has actually gone down. That would probably be the litmus test. um, what would happen is, okay, two states in India decide to do it. Okay, kids will just go to another state, or they'll just get a VPN and ping it from a server in another state where that ban doesn't exist, and there you go. It'll just crumble, right? And in that case, you will actually see favorable data from that state because they're just using a VPN. So the fact that they're physically present in a state has nothing to do with which server they end up accessing the content from. So many challenges to something like this. I would be curious to see how well Australia is doing. I would be curious to see how Indian states end up doing if they do try something like that. So, all right, guys, drum roll. Let me see. I'll find something. Okay. Oh, that worked. Let's go to the last one for the day. I'll pull that up in my screen share. Why? Yeah. Okay, so there we are. Rich people trying to keep more of their money to themselves, um, and featuring Mr. Page. When we told AI to make Larry Page for our thumbnail today, yeah, it could have done a better job, I feel. Hopefully, it was obvious enough. So it looks like there is a 5% wealth tax that was imposed in the state of California. JD, do you have any insights on this since you are in California? You're also in the holy grail of Google. So,
Yeah, yeah. Google headquarters is like 5 minutes away from my office. So, yeah. So this is an interesting thing. It's a big topic. So basically, what there's a prop. I don't know what the prop number is. If you can look it up, but that's on the ballot of California. So California, like other states, have their own way of how to make laws, right? Some states have their own legislatures, their own state senate, things like that. California is a little interesting case. They have ballot measures. So if you can get, I don't know the number, like I think 700K signatures, it can go up to a vote. And that's why California has such random weird laws. So anyways, so this law is targeting specifically billionaires and assets of those billionaires. So as you know, like if somebody calls themselves a billionaire, that doesn't mean they have $1 billion in cash, right? They can be cash poor but still be rich. So that's why this bill says there's going to be uh, I don't know how much percent tax is there. 5% tax, I think. I don't know. But that is going to be on all assets of an individual. So that has gotten billionaires scared. And we can talk about the pros and cons in a minute, why, what that is. It's not yet the law, but it might become a law uh, once. So there are two-step process. One is, okay, they've gotten us enough signatures, so this will go up to a vote. Now the general public of California gets to vote on it. If it, more than 50% people vote, then it becomes a law. Then it goes to the, I think, governor, and he can veto it or not veto it, things like that. But basically that's the background.
What I find the most interesting here is the statement right here. This is a statement from David Gamage. He's a University of Missouri law professor. He's saying, but if your startup is the next Google, you're giving California a share of your gamble, right? I find the usage of that word very interesting because, I mean, just the fact that someone is willing to take such a risk and they're trying to get and trying to become the next Google, they should be encouraged to stay in the state, right? A related article is saying that these billionaires pay less than 1.5% of their total wealth in annual state taxes, according to economic estimates, a small fraction of what other Californians pay. I mean, I'm a little confused here. If you do start overtaxing billionaires, then they'll just leave and go to, tax-friendly states like Musk did. He's now sitting in Texas. Um, California as a state has become very, very expensive to live, and it's primarily because of the the extremely valuable tech companies who pay their employees a lot. They can afford a much more expensive standard of living. But I also don't think that a state like California needs more taxes. Like anywhere in the West Coast, even all the way up to BC, right? Um, Overall, if you start overtaxing people, eventually they just lead nowhere. I'll give you an example of Canada. Canadians pay the most in the G7 through taxes into a universal healthcare system, which has walk in clinics which don't take walk in patients anymore. For so much for so called socialized healthcare, I was charged $75 extra to get a vitamin D test. All the other vitamins, fine. Vitamin D somehow special, pay $75 extra. I needed a doctor's note, $30 extra. So obviously, this socialized healthcare, which gets so much money, there's no ROI for the average Canadian on it. A state like California, where taxes are already probably the highest in all of the US, if not, yeah, probably the highest in all of the US. San Francisco downtown, from what I've never been there, so I can be faulted, but I've heard is basically a shithole. Um, so I don't know where that tax money goes, realistically speaking. I have been to another heavily taxed state in the US called Oregon. I've been to Portland downtown. And yeah, I'm not looking forward to go back there anytime soon, just because I'm okay to go and enjoy the more scenic parts of Oregon. Just not going to Portland anytime soon, just because, man, that was the scariest experience I've had in a US downtown ever. And
Not
I've
surprised.
been to LA downtown, and it's actually, or maybe I just ended up in the nicer areas. I don't know all the areas off the top of my hand. But yeah, overall, if the size of the government keeps increasing, all the money that comes in from taxes just goes in administrative duties to keep that large apparatus running. And essentially, all the systems that are put in place to try and counter a problem, they end up doing everything but counter that problem. There's a great book which covers this kind of system level analysis called Systemantics. And it basically says that every system is designed to do something and eventually ends up doing everything else but that very thing. Because if it solves that problem, there's no reason for that system to exist. But the system becomes a self perpetuating beast which is employing so many people that as soon as that system ceases to exist, all these people will not have employment. So you need to keep running so that people can, well, claim that they're being useful somewhere, right? So I just don't think that another tax in California will solve anything. Uh, yeah, I don't live in California, so I can only say so much. But yeah, just having been up and down the West Coast, like having another tax is not going to help anyone. Too many to keep track of, too much wastage of funds, too much bureaucracy, which basically people who have nothing to do with the government have to pay for, right? Vancouver downtown, BC, one of the most, uh, well, maybe not, but I mean, taxes in Canada are anyways crazy. So no matter where you look, so yeah, pay so much in taxes here. Still, Vancouver downtown, you have to be careful. You'll get your occasional homeless person. You gotta be scared. You gotta be vigilant. I mean, not getting the safety standard that we all wished we would get. I don't know if that's the case in San Francisco or not, but yeah, if you want to drive all your billionaires away, go for it. Then what will happen is basically Texas will get all of them because they are more economics friendly. But yeah, I think awareness and just maybe closing some loopholes in accounting rules will help you get more taxes from the billionaires. But just by putting another tax so that everyone just now has to think about it, you're going to have to set up another department just to calculate these people's so called assets so that then you decide what that 5% is. And I think in this article it's saying that if that there's a lot of, I mean, valuation is an art. It's not really a science. There's very little science to it. So and with genuine analysis, different people reach different estimates of the valuation of these companies, and then you try to determine 5% of some sort of number, and then the government says, no, no, it should have been something else, and you're going to try and, I think, I'm not sure if, I guess there'll be some sort of penalty on the valuation on the asset valuator. So again, how are you going to enforce all this? You're going to set up another department, and there you go. How will you fund that department? From taxes. And before you know it, everyone is seeing more tax being cut from their paychecks, because ultimately all the salaried people will have no say in this matter. They'll just get their tax cut before they even get their paycheck, and they'll just be paying a little bit more to sustain another ministry or another department in some ministry, trying to just estimate the true 5% of a Larry Page or a Mark Zuckerberg, etc., etc. Yeah, it's not, a tax is not going to go anywhere, at least not in California, no.
Yeah, yeah, no, you hit the nail in the head because I just looked up like what is the total state budget of California. It's around $350 billion. I think it's the most of any state in North America, right? And they are still in the red. They have a deficit after having the biggest uh, state budget. So the problem is not that we're not taxing billionaires enough. The problem is the California is spending way too much and on stupid shit instead of like conserving uh, all this money. Like it, as you said, like there's so many random ass departments um, that people don't cannot keep a track of it. And if you're going to chase people who are actually creating jobs in California out, who's going to create the jobs? Who then, like, more money is flying out, then you need to increase the taxes more, as you said. And right now, I mean, tech is the only industry that's kind of driving California's economy. Like, it's definitely not Hollywood. Like, Hollywood is dead. What else is
Yeah.
there? Nature. What are you going to do with nature, right? Like, I mean, especially in California, you can't cut the trees or things like that. So it's crazy. Like, balance your effing budget, and don't go after people who are actually creating the job, and especially tech billionaires who are really smart and they know how to go around systems. That's their job, right? And I'll tell you another example. This has happened before in the US. So a best example of this is Illinois, right? It's a blue Midwest state in middle of, other red states, kind of. And it has a very blue city, Chicago. Now, Chicago, Illinois is bankrupt. It hasn't had a balanced budget for the past decade, right? And they're still increasing taxes because they have no other way to fund. And there used to be a lot of great companies like Citadel, Boeing, all these were Chicago companies. Now they are all out. They're like, we can't survive here. So, like, stop going after the job creators. And another thing, I was interested. I was like, okay, what are the, if I am a high income earner, like, how much do I pay taxes in California versus if I was in British Columbia, right? So after everything, I think, see, California has the highest tax in the US, but it's still less than BC, right? Like, Canada
I'm
is on another
surprised.
level. Yeah. So Canada is on another level. But if California is doing this stuff, it won't be time before, it converts to a Canada like state where it's like very heavily taxed and things like that. I mean, I checked for or other provinces like Ontario versus California, Ontario versus New York. And yeah, like, Canada taxes heavily still. But I mean,
Crazy.
all these blue states are pushing towards that, which is very, very wrong.
Yeah, overall, I guess, yeah, the focus should be on making governments efficient, right? Canada is doing a lot of things in terms of reducing the size of the federal government. How much will that result in a reduction in my tax bill? I don't know yet. Maybe they have already put something out and I just haven't looked at it. I'm trying to find out, okay, if there's going to be a reduction in taxes or not in Canada. But yeah, there's no point in slapping another tax before you even figure out what to do with the money you're getting so far. Yeah, I think with that, we can start wrapping this one up, guys. Hope you liked what you heard today. Hope more and more people will join us soon. Do let us know what you think of our discussion. Do let us know what you think of our intro. And yeah, we will see you guys next week with 3 more exciting topics. As we mentioned in our last one, this is a year that just keeps giving. Hopefully, hopefully that trend will continue. Maybe in more reasonable ways, but yeah, let's see. Have a great rest of the weekend, guys. JD, your closing thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I hope like we get some positive news also, not just negative news. I hope we get to laugh in the middle instead of just cry about all these things, because that's very important in life. I think, like, uh, I don't know where we are heading. It's like it's going to be a crazy year ahead. But, intrinsically, I'm a very positive person. I wish the best for everybody. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Uh, I hope you like our discussions. We put a lot of thought into it. And if you like it, do share, do subscribe, Uh, message us, reach out to us, let us know how we're doing, share with your friends. Uh, we want our thoughts to go out to everybody so everybody can benefit from it. We don't do clickbait stuff, as you can see. We are doing long form because we love it, and this is what we listen to anyways. This is what me and Abhijit talk about all day anyways, so why not share it to the world? And with that, thank you for listening. Have a good day.
Thank you guys. Signing off. See you guys next week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.